we're now bringing this forum to a close, and I'm going to turn it over to Jeremy again to kind of begin the closing remarks of the forum. Jeremy.
Thank you. I won't have the last remarks. I think Alan has the last. He's always going to have the last word right now here in this forum. Just a couple thoughts as we wrap up. First of all, you may notice that I dodged the question on funding, on how do we build our budget. If you asked me that 3 weeks ago, I could probably have a pretty good discourse with you. But now that I'm a Fed, my budget's great. So I have to salute. And I think the budget that we have right now is okay, and we're going to be able to make do with a lot of stuff. And then there's some things here that I heard that we don't need a whole lot of funding for, that we can just do. So I'm going to look at those, but we can have other discussions in terms of which ways to go forward. Because I'm going to speak abstractly about budgets for a second, because I'm going to pick up on what Ambassador Hume had mentioned, because it's the same messaging that I have been giving people for a while, which is how do budgets grow, and it's ideas. And I'm going to go one step further. It's big ideas, big projects drive big budgets, not the other way around. No one's going to get a pot of money out there and say, here's $1 billion. What do you scientists want to do with it? No. There's so much competing interest for money these days that you need to get a seat at the negotiating table before you can even have a discussion about that. So what I'm going to do is look for this community to come up with those ideas. In one of the breakout sessions yesterday, there was a few of us that were looking to hear if there was big ideas coming out of this group. And this may not be the forum for that, and that's okay. And maybe we'll get the different space for that. But this budget isn't going to grow. Other budgets that you work with aren't going to grow if it's just one expedition after the other, or one project after the other. And as much as there was a lot of things that I took away from this forum, and there's tons that I have, there's one thing that I did want to point out that was lacking, that we as a community need to work on. And the forum was a great place for this. I'm talking about the community. There's no criticism on the forum at all. There was a lack of consensus on what ideas are important. There's a lot of ideas put forward, but there wasn't a consensus on which ones are good or not. And there's also a lack of priorities on on all the ideas that are good. If everything's a priority, nothing is a priority. Now I have a finite budget, and what that means is that we're going to have to spend that out as best as we can. And I don't mind being the decision maker on that, but it sure would be nice if, as much as folks accuse the government of shifting priorities, it goes both ways. We'd like to make sure that we're meeting all of your priorities, and we're doing that over a time scale that's realistic, and it's viable, and it's efficient. So I'm going to need all of you to help out with that. First, let's get our priorities straight, get our house in order, and then let's talk about building that budget. I think one last thing I'd have for you is that hopefully you can see me as someone who's going to be listening and continuing to listen, even as we fly home. I try to keep an open mind on everything. So my door is always going to be open to you if you have ideas. One role that I'm going to have too is I'm going to try to be that firewall, that dam on the NOAA bureaucracy that comes in, or the federal bureaucracy, so that you all can do everything that you want to do. I don't mind banging my head against the walls of bureaucracy to do that, because sometimes you kind of need a buffer for that. But in order to do that, I am going to need some proper input from y'all. All is y'all, I should say, since I'm in Texas. But like I said, I'm hoping you'll find me, my staff, the office, to continue to keep an open door. Ocean exploration was built on the community and the stakeholders. Today, we operate in reliance of the partners and on behalf of those stakeholders. In the future, we're going to need to build new partnerships to make this program happen and to leverage the dollars that we have. So I'm going to count on all of you to do that. And I'm going to end, my last comments are going to be the comments that I said in the very beginning. I do want to thank Consortium of Ocean Leadership for putting on this fantastic forum, which is very hard to do in a hybrid environment. And I want to thank all the additional sponsors that helped to make this happen. So with that, I'm going to end my comments, and thank you.
Well, that was a great synthesis. Thank you. Before we close, I just want to do another quick round of thanks. I do want to thank the NOAA Ocean Exploration. After all, they sponsored this forum. So we're all here today thanks to NOAA Ocean Exploration, who we've worked very closely with, along with the Jackson School of Geosciences, for what seems like now probably the better part of about a year and a half. Might have been shorter, but it hasn't been thanks to COVID, to really spend these last few days interrogating the future of ocean exploration, interrogating the future of ocean science, and interrogating kind of our roles in that and how we're going to move it forward. I also want to thank our advisory committee, who was absolutely essential in setting the stage, coming up with the ideas, determining the topics, determining the breakouts. Really intentional thought went into this, and countless hours, as Jamie said, at least 300 Zoom calls over the last few years. And of course, we can't do any of this without the sponsors, in addition to NOAA, the Ocean Exploration Cooperative Institute, the Schmidt Ocean Institute, Ocean Minerals, Texas A&M, Woods Hole Oceanographic, Food Grow, and Jamie Austin as well. None of this happens without sponsorship in some way, shape, or form. But it also doesn't happen without you and your institutions giving you the free board to attend a meeting like this, especially in these times. So I want to thank you all. I want to thank the panelists. I want to thank the speakers. I want to thank the breakout leaders. I want to thank the moderators who dedicated a lot of time to help and execute what I think is a very successful event. I reiterate that if you want to revisit these plenary sessions, they will be up on the website at some point in the future. And of course, work is going to start basically right after this meeting, this meeting ends, on getting the report going and getting it written so that we can take the next steps. And I guess for me, the last comments that I'd like to make is, as you go out the doors and you go on your way today and over the next few weeks and year, some of the takeaways for me is think about taking risks and failing and persevering through them to your success. Think about the fact that we talked about the need to develop standards and deliver data and knowledge, not just data, but knowledge. Think about the reality that in order to do this and do it well, it takes a community, and that takes relationships, and that takes partnerships, and that takes collaboration. And at the end of the day, we do this because we want to be an ally to the ocean, because the ocean is an ally to us. So I hope you consider those thoughts as you go out on the day. I know that there's going to be conversations spill over in the hallway outside, so I look forward to talking to you all before everybody heads to the airport or their rental cars or their offices if they're here on campus. So thank you all for being here. Can't wait to see you all at the next one.